Okay, everybody, we are back with Coffee Break with Coachman. I'm live from São Paulo, Brazil, and our guest, my dear friend, Dr. Kyle Stanley, one of the new members of the team of young celebrities, young dental celebrities, super successful dentist from Beverly Hills, and with a bunch of great new ideas, really fresh air into the lecturing circuit. We're going to talk about many topics here, and I want to welcome everybody to this Coffee Break with Coachman show. And the ones that are already watching the previous ones, very cool interviews I've been doing with the most brilliant minds, not only clinical, but the goal here is to interview business people, marketing people, researchers, professors, entrepreneurs, innovators, trendsetters, and great clinicians, technicians as well. What I want you to do to help us spread the word is to share this interview from your Facebook. Okay, so if you're watching us right now, just click the share button and spread the word of Coffee Break with Coachman. That's exactly what I'm doing. So now we are live also on my Christian Coachman Facebook page. We are also live on Digital Smile Design Facebook page. And actually, this is the first time that I'm actually also transmitting on my Instagram. So if you're on the Instagram, you will be able to watch us. So let me just share quickly here to the DSD page as well. So here we go, share on a page you manage, and that's DSD, and that is post. So we are watching now everywhere. So let me put this on a big screen. There we go. And Kyle, thank you so much for opening time, your busy schedule. You're flying all over. I remember when I first met you, you were like looking at me and saying, you fly all over. I wish I could do the same. I don't know if you feel the same anymore.
Yeah.
Usually we regret we have to be careful because what we wish usually happens. So
Yeah.
Kyle, thank you. Introduce yourself and let's start this.
Yeah. So my name's Kyle Stanley, and I like to introduce myself on a personal level more. I'm a father. I'm a brother. I'm an artist at heart, and I happen to be a dentist as well. And like Christian said, I'm a speaker too. So that's a big part of my profession now, is being a professional speaker. And that's pretty much it. I've been trying to do some good stuff in our profession, and I think we'll get more into that stuff.
Perfect, my friend. Yes, we definitely have some cool topics I was mentioning here with the team, and we have the main topic. I believe the main topic of the interview, a very serious subject that you brought to our attention. We have this group of opinion leaders in dentistry that we are part, this WhatsApp group, and you brought this topic, and people really got involved and started to comment. Mental health. Dealing with stress, huge rate of depression in our profession. Actually, dentistry is known as one of the most stressful professions on earth, and
Yeah.
the rates of depression among our colleagues is huge. It's curious also to know that the highest rate of suicides among professionals is among dentists as well. So we're going to talk about, so we're going to leave this to the end, okay?
Okay.
And
Sounds good.
I want to start, since you have a very interesting career, and I think many young people watching us here would love to understand, how did you plan your career? How did you build the path of first getting out of dental school, selecting your mentors, most importantly, making your mentors give you attention. That's very key factor. We all want mentors. The key is, how do you make your mentor believe in you and open space in their super busy schedule to help you, because you have people coming to mentors all the time, and mentors are handpicking the people that they want to really embrace.
Right.
So you did some kind of magic, because really top people embraced you and guided you through your career. So please explain to me what were in your mind when you first graduated? What was your plan? Did your plan change? How do you pick your mentors, and how did you make your mentors pick you?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because you are my third mentor. So being here and just, having a chat with you is I look forward to just talking to you today. Not even the fact that we're on live, just the fact that, I like when we catch up, when we have coffee for real, like when we're in Brazil, Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I was lucky in the fact that I found my mentor before dental school finished. So my first mentor is Pascal Magnier, as many people know, the father of biomimetic dentistry. He's, one of the innovators with minimally invasive dentistry, and of course, an aesthetic dentist genius. And I found Pascal because he inspired me. So I had all these dentists, that were speaking to us in dental school. And when Pascal came, I saw the artistic side.
But did you meet him during dental school?
Yes.
Heard about him during dental school.
Yeah. So during dental school, he gives a bleaching introduction, or he did. I don't know if it's still happening, to the second-year dentists. And as you know, his slides were beautiful. He dressed nice. He had this cool French accent. And I was like, okay, this person is different. And then in dental school, there were all these rumors going around. Like, oh, he's like this person or this person. Okay, let's see. And I was very interested. And then Pascal had this course called the Aesthetic Selective Program, where he selected about 10 students to work closely with him. And what you had to do is you had to take time out of your clinic time, which, most were very busy there, to come and, I think it was once a week, do a full day or a half day where he was giving lectures. And that was a whole semester. And it was on your own time. You didn't have to be there. Mm-hmm. So I made the time to be there. And then at the end, there's a test. And you also have to submit a PowerPoint. And I think that just showing that I was there every time, I did well on the test because I worked my ass off for it. And then I think with my PowerPoint, I tried to get into that artistic aspect that I knew he had, because that was me. I was an artist before I was a scientist. Mm-hmm. And I think it was just hard work, because like you said, so many people are coming to big mentors and saying, teach me, show me stuff. And you really have to show why you're different. Mm-hmm. And also with Pascal, I tried to speak with him on a personal level. Mm-hmm. My brother lived in Switzerland. We shared, and we both like watches. And it's kind of like you said, people have to respect you. People have to like you. I tried to get in with a personal level as well as the professional level. And then with Pascal, once I got into the aesthetic selective, where he worked really closely with 10 students, then, I showed what I wanted to do. I worked hard. I was passionate about it. I asked him about research, and we became friends as well as, colleagues. So, yeah.
I usually, you can confirm if that actually happened with you, because of course, creating a relationship is very important with the mentor. But to get to the point that the mentor is actually allowing you to create a personal relationship, I usually suggest, when you have a successful professional, and the mentors are usually successful professionals, they're really busy, so they're lacking time.
Right.
Time is very valuable. So
Right.
somehow the student or the new pupil needs to show that he's willing to give his time to do things and to save time of the mentor. So
Right.
the teacher, the mentor, you have so many projects going on, you have a lot of stuff. So you're always seeking for smart young people to help you. And then you see these students coming and saying, I want to be inspired, I want to learn, I want to this. And then
Yeah.
suddenly you see among them a student that's saying, look, I'm putting some time free and I can actually run this project for you. I
Right.
can help you write this article. I can
Mhm.
organize your desk. I
Mhm.
can help you carrying your computer.
Yeah.
I can be with you and work as an AV assistant for you. I understand about technology. I can take photos. I'm very good with photos. I can document the case for you. Not only document, I can organize the images online. I'm good with Keynote. I can start putting your slides together, and then you can work from there. So somehow generate value related to time, saving time. And then sometimes if the young dentist student is very precise and efficient on what he's doing, you actually get the mentors addicted to that guy.
That help.
They cannot, yeah, I cannot live without your help. That's the point when the student really gets the attention and makes the shift of becoming a colleague.
Yeah.
Did you somehow helped Pascal initially with projects and things that really helped him?
Yeah, for sure. We had, I volunteer my time to help teach his course at USC, and I've done that for 7 years now.
Fantastic.
So that's a day a week of my time that initially would have been really nice to have an extra day of pay. Coming out of school, that's why there's problems with dental schools right now, I think, is because coming out of school, and we'll talk about this later, is we have a lot of debt, especially in the United States. And then they want us to come back and teach, and it's like, I have to take a day, I can only work 5 or maybe 6 days a week, and you want me to take one day out of my practice to come teach? So I did that, and I made that sacrifice, which some people told me it was stupid, just work and have the money. And I said, you know what? I really want to help, and I really want to give back to Pascal. He gave me so much. He got me into my residency. He introduced me to my second mentor, who's Sasha Jovanovic. And so I think it's giving that extra time, because if, like you said, we give the extra time, we can help that mentor, then they'll be willing to help us. And oftentimes, as a mentee, you may have to put in weeks, months, years even before you get that one comment that may save you years in your career. And I've gotten that from.
What do you think were before we go to the next your next mentor?
Mm-hmm.
What were the biggest or the best tips that Pascal gave you? The shortcuts by being his student.
I think one thing that the main thing is that he inspired me on natural shapes, natural teeth, what we should be trying to replicate, which is what you and I were talking about yesterday with some of our friends. He can get you inspired about doing something natural and doing something imperfect. And that's what him and his brother Michel Magnier have been talking about for decades. But that was one of the first things he introduced to us. So that was one of the main things, was inspiring me and making me want to be the best at certain things and not sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And then number 2, one of the biggest things is he kind of introduced me to my residency program. He kind of got me into my residency program in Brazil. They had never had an American do that implant program. And
so explain a little bit this story, because you told me it's a very cool story. You came back to him saying, look, I'm just a general dentist and I want to learn how to place implants, right? How to be a surgeon.
Yeah. I told him I want to learn how to place implants, and I said, I'd like to maybe live in another country too. And originally my plan was go somewhere in South America so that I could learn Spanish. I was like, okay, I'll learn Spanish. I can really use that in California. You know, we have a lot of Hispanic culture here. And he said, well, if you really want to learn implants well, you have to go to Brazil. And I was like, okay. My brother lived in Brazil. My brother lived in Belém. And so I said, all right, well, tell me more about it. And so he put me in touch with people in Brazil, and he...
Detail here is that as an American, you never spoke a word of Portuguese.
Correct.
The program is completely in Portuguese, right?
Yeah,
so,
except one day a week it's in English for the PhD students. But yeah, everything else. Patients, you know, calling patients, learning the instruments in Portuguese, learning, you know, levantamento do seo, and, you know, everything that...
You just decided, okay, I'm going to just learn Portuguese in 3 months and go?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I knew about 6 months before I was leaving that I was going to go. So I had, you know, earbuds like this, and I'd be doing wax ups in dental school or pouring up models, and I'd be saying like, eu me chamo Kyle, eu sou americano, and I'd be listening to MP3s in Portuguese, and it was difficult. It was really difficult because I got there.
Language.
Yeah, it was difficult, but when you're immersed in it, it happened. You know, I had to learn while I was doing surgery. I had to call patients, which was so difficult. And now it's really been a gift because I speak Portuguese to my son. So my son's learning 2 languages, which is great. And even though my Portuguese isn't perfect, you know, he says like avião and leite, leite.
So cool.
Yeah, so
cool. No,
it's
it
pretty
was
cool to see.
Yeah, I saw you having a coffee there on your Brazilian mug, your Brazilian aesthetics mug, right? So
That's
you
right.
lectured there last year.
Yeah.
Great meeting, and people were super happy to see you introducing yourself on stage. You know, an American that looks so much as an American, like you look like an American, and suddenly you open your lecture speaking in Portuguese. Not only saying hello in Portuguese, but actually really speaking in Portuguese. People were very impressed. That was a great introduction.
That was a really special time for me. You know, Brazil has, I get emotional when I talk about it, but Brazil is such a special country for me because they really just opened their arms. You know, they didn't charge me anything for the program, which is like crazy from an American standpoint. You know, I had to pay for my materials and things like that, but they didn't charge me tuition. And they just knew me as Pascal Magne's, you know, student. Okay. And everybody just embraced me and welcomed me, helped me with my Portuguese. You know, I'm so grateful for Brazil, and that was one of the best things.
So that's Pascal Magne's fault, right? You're connected with Brazil. That's a great shortcut. As you know, one of the things of the programs here in Brazil is that people do things themselves with a lot of volume. You know, many professors, they organize courses in Brazil because here the students can actually do surgery, place implants themselves, rehabilitate the patients.
Yep.
So you probably did hundreds of implants during your program, right?
That was exactly it. Was because if I did some type of implant program in the US, which kind of doesn't exist, you know, to do it on patients, I maybe would have done 10 implants or something. And when I was in Brazil, you know, I'd do 10 the first week. It's like they said, we have 1,200 patients. What do you want to do? I was like, posterior molar. Okay, call these 10 people. And then I'd be on the phone like, eu me chamo Caio. Eu sou dentista de universidade. You know, like having someone there to help me. But yeah, I got a lot of experience just because of the fact that there's a lot of patients that needed treatment.
Such a young age, you became an experienced implantologist, even as a speaker for implant companies, super fast. And then definitely this experience with volume, it's very, very interesting. But you coming back from Brazil, you went back to US. What happened? Did you immediately open your office? You already had an office. You were working for somebody.
Yeah. So I was working for about 10 different offices, and I was working for DSOs, which was kind of interesting to get that experience. I was working for my father's practice, which is about an hour from my from my house. You know, he has a small general dentistry practice. I was placing implants and doing inlays and onlays and things. So I got this interesting experience of going around to these different offices and seeing what I liked. And I think that I give most of my my mentees or my students that advice too, is when you get out of school, work for some other people and realize what you like and what you don't like. And most of the time I realized what I didn't like, which made me realize what I wanted to do when I had my own practice. And so one of those offices was Sasha Jovanovic's office. And I was teaching with Pascal, and I said, "Hey, do you know Sasha Jovanovic?" And he was like, "Yeah, you know, he's been a good friend of mine for decades." And I was like, "Do you know if he needs anybody at office?" And he was like, "Well, let me email Sasha."
Did you see a lecture from Sasha? Did you admire his publications or?
Yeah, so what was interesting was in Brazil, when I would do like a few implants a day, my friends would joke. They would be like, "Oh, Sasha Jovanovic. Oh, Sasha Jovanovic." And so, you know, we were reading his papers in our review, our study clubs and things. So yeah, I knew who he was. I read his papers, but one of my friend, Zeh, would tell me, "Oh, Sasha Jovanovic," kind of making fun of me. And so I didn't realize that he was in LA. You know, doing research and finding things out, I found out he was in LA. And then Pascal made the introduction. Luckily, Sasha was like, "Nah, I don't really need anybody, you know, to place implants here or do surgery here. But maybe for restoring cases that I get directly referred to me." And then it turned into, there would be cases where if he was gone, or then I started placing implants there and doing surgery there as well. And Sasha welcomed me again, which was crazy because, you know, I was just out of school.
And then you started to also help him with the courses, right?
Yep. Yeah. And then, you know, it was the same thing. He would be like, you know, I've got to do a lecture tomorrow. Like, can you put together these slides? Or, oh, I totally double booked myself and I have to fly to Japan. Can you give this lecture tomorrow to 10 people that are coming? I'm like, okay.
So understanding Keynote and having artistic skills to put cool slides together is definitely a good thing to know, right? And to open doors.
It definitely helped me with, you know, my first two mentors.
Very, very cool. I tell you, you know, when I introduce you, when you're giving courses in the DSD courses, I always introduce you mentioning Pascal and Sasha, because I think when we see that these two amazing names in our profession really embraced you, that says it all. You don't need to explain.
Yeah.
So I think you should be very proud of this early beginning.
Thank you. One thing that's interesting is that all three of my mentors, you know, Pascal, Sasha, and you, no one's American.
That's true.
You know, Pascal's from Switzerland. Sasha grew up in the Netherlands, and you from Brazil. I don't know what that is. It's an international mentor program.
Yeah. That's cool. That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Now, moving forward a little bit, after this period of your life of learning from mentors, helping mentors, becoming a partner of your mentors, and really growing professionally, you know, you get to a point where people that like to lecture like you and do it well, you start to be recognized, and you get some kind of recognition that usually happens because you're good, but happens before you get the financial feedback, you know.
Yes.
So we see this happening. It kind of happened with me as well. People started to admire my work, and I was not making money at all. Still at that time, it takes a while. You have the debt from dental school, and then suddenly you decide to open your own office, right, to invest even more. So it's always a challenge, you know. And then you get married, and then you have kids, and everything is a big mix. It's you know, when you're like from 30 to 40, usually you are in the middle, you know, of the hurricane. You know you're on the right path because people are starting to admire what you're doing, but it's very hard to find the balance, professional life, personal life, I want you to talk a little bit about the challenges that you went through and that you're still going through, because I think that brings to reality, brings your name to reality. Sometimes we create this character, this persona on social media,
Right.
and younger people start to look at look at this persona. And I think it's very interesting for people to understand that we all go through struggles, we all suffer. It's not easy for anybody, and
Yeah.
it's very hard. You have to work very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard time, and it's kind of like with the speaking community. I don't think most people realize is that when you get invited to the real top of the line, you're lecturing in front of 1,000 people, and it's AACD, or it's SBOE, or it's all these things. These are volunteer. These aren't paid speaking gigs, and you can make definitely more money.
It's very, very, very difficult to make money lecturing, right?
Right.
Business.
Yeah, it's an interesting business part, because you can make more money speaking to 5 people in the middle of Wisconsin than to 1,000 people at one of the most prestigious meetings. But back to what you were saying about this in-between stage, which I think you're right, is about 30 to 40. And I would hope that by the time I'm 40, I'm out of this. But in the United States, it may be a little bit different than internationally because of the school debt. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we get out of school with a lot of debt. And then, like you said, we buy a practice, or we invest in a practice. Then we get married, and you get a house or cars or things. And things get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're right. I think that many of us are guilty in social media in general of saying, look at how great my life is. We post the cute pictures of our baby, and not when our baby is going crazy and smashing their head against the ground. And I think it can give the wrong persona. So you're exactly right. And I'm in this in-between stage where I am getting invitations to big conferences. Patients are coming to my practice because they've heard of my name somewhere. But by no means am I a wealthy man. I have a ton of debt. And
as we say in Portuguese, you have to kill a lion per day.
Yeah. And that really is a stressor in my life. I go to sleep at night and wake up at night thinking about how I'm going to support my family. And I've told my wife this before, but sometimes I wake up in the morning and feel like a hamster running on the hamster wheel. Just immediately I've got to do emails and call people, and there's an interview, and I've got a patient that's calling and she's in pain, and it's stressful. So it's by no means easy.
And how do you plan to balance the lecturing part with the clinical work in your office, knowing that money comes from the office, not from the lecturing, but lecturing gives you, reputation and pleasure. So do you have a strategy for that? And I remember talking to you about that.
Yeah. You gave me some good advice in New York a few years ago. I'm by no means a great example of this. I've gotten a lot better in the last year. I was doing about 40 dates a year, and this year maybe I'll do 32, 35. So I've brought it down a little bit, and I had to learn how to say no.
Yeah,
and not only with speaking, but with everything in life. And that was one thing that I got from people like you told me this, people like Chris Ramsey, people like Rob Ritter. These people told me, Kyle, you have to say no, and you can't do everything. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I would say, I'll book a few more, and then then I would hear it from my wife, rightfully so. She said, hey, you need to be here. And it's a hard balance. But I've recently, in the last year, we'll talk about this later, but I went through kind of a midlife crisis to where, and this is why I started talking about the stress topic. I went through this midlife crisis where I realized that money is not that important. And so when you're talking about, I know that the office makes more money, but other things may give me more pleasure. I'm not always chasing the money now. And what I'm chasing now, which is kind of interesting, we were talking about this before, is I'm chasing time. So I'm chasing things that will allow me to be with my family more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my dad always said that how life is structured is kind of backwards. You work very hard while your kids are young, and then when your kids are old, you retire and they have their own life. And what he always said was that you should take the time off when your kids are young and then work later in your life when your kids have their own lives.
Strategy.
So I'm trying to balance that right now. I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm trying to see what I can do now remotely, what I can
that was my question.
Less.
What kind of projects do you have now, or strategies that are you building some strategies to generate revenue without having to be with your hands working in somebody's mouth?
Yes.
Do you have that in mind? Because at that age, if you start thinking about that, you can achieve that much earlier than understanding that when you're 50.
Yeah, that was what this midlife crisis was kind of about. And my brother's a dentist, my dad's a dentist, like you, I come from a dental family. And I talked to my dad, who is retiring in the next few weeks, and said, Dad, if you would go back and do it again, would you tell me to get out of clinical dentistry? And he said, yes, I would. He said, it's so stressful and you can make a lot more money other places. As much as I love clinical dentistry, and I'll never not be a wet finger dentist, but maybe a little bit less now. And so when I had this midlife crisis, I talked to my pastor. His name's Erwin McManus. He's an international speaker. He's a book writer. He's a fantastic person. And he said, Kyle, let dentistry be your platform and maybe not have it be your only thing. Have it be your platform. Mm-hmm. Use dentistry to do other things. So right now I'm working on a few products, and I'm working on some software and things that will allow me to be at my practice less. Although I'm at my practice still a bunch, mm-hmm. But even saving a day at my practice or 2 days a week, something like that, allows me to be with my family more, which is worth it for me. And people don't like to talk about money, and I love that you do talk about money, because there was a guy named Scott Luna who's a speaker, and I think he was on Kurt's show before, and he said, I think it was the year after dental school, I took a course from him, and he said, I'm fine with talking about money, because money means more time with my family. The more money I make, the more time I can take off. And I was like, that just stuck in my head, and I didn't even have a family then. Mm-hmm. But I knew I wanted one. So yeah, the more money I make now, the more time I can spend with my family.
That's a basic rule. Yeah, unfortunately, we need to make money.
Yeah.
More time, and then to find ways to make money without having to be doing clinical work or creating a system that can use your skills, your intelligence, your ideas, and somehow multiply yourself, right?
Right.
And you have to be creative and start thinking about it when you're 30. You cannot wait that magic will happen when you're 50.
Right.
And maybe the artificial intelligence project you're in, maybe this is one of these projects, is it?
Yes. Yeah. So the little introduction with this is that one of my patients owns an artificial intelligence company. He's about 35. And it's one of the top artificial intelligence companies in the world in the ad tech space, so advertising. Does about $150 million a year in revenue, works with 70% of the top Fortune 100 companies. I mean, it's a gigantic companies with offices all over the world. And 2.5 years ago, I was doing a hygiene visit on him. So he had his prophy done, and I came in and I was doing an exam, and he said, I thought about doing this thing with dentistry where we could read x-rays with our AI technology. And his dad is a retired dentist, so this is where his interest came. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's talk about it. So 2.5 years ago, we started working on this, and now in fourth quarter of this year, we're going to be rolling out into 2,000 offices. And basically, what it is imagine you take your FMX, you take your full mouth series. Instantly, the artificial intelligence will find existing restorations and chart them for you. It will also find pathologies like widened periodontal ligament, caries, periapical lesions. It'll find existing anatomy like sinuses, nerves, nasal cavities in milliseconds. So from the clinician side, it does a few things to where it instantly charts, so it saves you money on time. It'll then take any pathology and can automatically bill to insurance, so it saves your staff time. And it will allow you to talk to your patient and say, I don't just think that you have a cavity here, but 1,000 dentists from around the world think you have a cavity here. Yeah. So we call it the second opinion. It's actually like 1,000th opinion.
This is what we on the DSD program we call it the mix between cloud dentistry and interdisciplinary treatment simulation, right? That's when technology starts to help you make better decisions. And then just to put some context on this topic, because when people ask me, Christian, what are the new trends in dentistry? Many people expect me to say that is digital dentistry. For me, digital dentistry is not a new trend. Digital dentistry happened yesterday already. It's a reality. It's an obligation. It's done. It's ready to help us, right? For me, the new trends that will become reality much faster than we expect is exactly artificial intelligence and automated processes, meaning creating solutions that will save you time again, because it's all about time. I went to a amazing meeting in innovation, and one of the key speakers mentioned that the main thing because we should use technology is because it needs to help us to save time so we can do whatever we want with our lives, right? If technology is making you waste time, technology is not ready. And technology today is saving time if you know how to use it, right? When it comes to artificial intelligence, what is the difference between digital dentistry and digital dentistry with artificial intelligence? Until yesterday or until today, technology helps you to perform better procedures by allowing you to use technology to produce devices, etc. But when we talk about artificial intelligence, that means that you're not only operating technology to produce things better, but now technology is helping you with the decision-making process, right?
Right.
And we know that this is going to happen. It's already happened starting in medicine, and it's going to happen in dentistry. One great example is Invisalign, exactly what you said. You can be the best orthodontist in the world, but when you have an issue in front of you, you need to make a decision if the best thing for the patient is going path A or path B. The patient depends on your unique knowledge that is only yours, right? Once you use a system like Invisalign, I'm not here to defend aligners, but the concept that when you submit a case to Invisalign, and Invisalign software, the Invisalign technology brain already did 5 million cases. And from these 5 million cases, maybe 30,000 cases had the exact same issue of your patient. And suddenly the computer using 30,000 examples to understand the result and the consequences of the decision, and saying, according to our experience with 30,000 cases, this is the computer talking to us, you should do A and not B, right?
Yep.
And that's the beauty of what you're doing, and when you mentioned to me about x-rays, I think that's super smart, because it's probably one of the easiest things in dentistry to incorporate artificial intelligence. Now thinking about it, if I could start artificial intelligence in dentistry, I would definitely go through x-rays, because it's a very visual thing that you can, it's black and white, right? You see, you identify, you detect, and you create a report. So how is the project going?
It's great. We're working with about 2 to 3 of the biggest dental service organizations in the world right now. So, like I said, over 2,000 practices.
It's like a beta testing phase.
Yeah. So it's our tier 1 partners basically, and this is our starting point. And it's such an interesting thing because we've started with X-rays and we've already been experimenting with CT scans, intraoral scans, the lab protocol, the patient experience, and we have the computer vision engineers that can do this stuff very quickly, and we have all the data. So we've compiled basically what we think is the biggest set of digital X-rays, of digital dental X-rays. We're working with universities now as well. So like working with UPenn with our friend Marcus Blatz. And it's just very exciting. Also the research. So I told you what's good for the clinician, but with Gum Gum Dental, which is the name of the company, what's great thing about for the patient is it brings trust back in, which I think is missing in our practice. You know, people say, I have a slide when I talk about with stress, you say, oh, I'm a dentist. And the patient, oh, I hate dentists. You say, don't you remember that I just told you I was a dentist? You know, because they don't trust us. And bringing that in, like I said, and saying not just I think you have a cavity here, but 100,000.
That's super powerful.
100,000 dentists think you have a cavity here. So
and I don't know if you agree, but all these technologies, right? And we have, and as you probably, when this project evolves, you're probably going to start entering a new phase that I've been going through many years. And the new phase is that as soon as you have a technology that you know is fantastic and is working, you're going to enter the phase of trying to convince other dentists to adopt, because your business will come from that, right?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
How cool you think that solution is, you know, people need to actually pay for it and buy it, right?
Right.
And as we know, as human beings, we like to be on the comfort zone. We don't like changes. We usually think that we don't need that. I've been analyzing X-rays since 30 years, and I'm fine. Why do I need this new technology and invest on this and blah, blah, blah. But as I always tell people, it doesn't matter if you like these things or not. It's a matter of understanding if it makes sense to the final consumer. Because if the final consumer likes the story about not depending on one opinion, but actually having the world looking at your little problem and together defining what is best for you, once this goes viral, you know, and you talk direct to the final consumer, and they like the idea, they're gonna come back looking for dentists that use that technology. Right. And it doesn't matter how good you are and how much you're going to explain that you don't need a technology, you're going to lose that patient. You're going to lose that lead. So as I usually say that the pressure will happen outside in. It's not a matter of enjoying, liking, needing. It's not you. It's not about you, doctor. It's about your patient. It's about what they think it makes sense. And if the story about this new solution makes sense, on social media, this goes viral and people will knock your door asking for it. Yeah,
it's a crazy thing to think that we may be able to have so many things automated and not miss something, because we all make mistakes, you know, and we can actually get it to where with artificial intelligence or computer vision or neural networks, whatever you want to call it, we can get it to where the computer thinks better than we do. The computer won't miss that caries that we might miss. The computer won't miss the calculus stick that we might miss, or the cancer, you know, something that we don't talk about oftentimes, but pathologies. What I like about this, and, you know, take into account that I have invested interest into the company, but is lowering the liability for the doctor as well.
Definitely.
Because we're going to talk about it later, but liability is a huge thing for doctors.
Sharing the responsibility, definitely.
Right.
That's definitely a huge point. And and making people comfortable, that you're using the best technology to identify what is going on. That's why I usually say, you need to understand when to jump into a new technology. And I see that what you guys are developing, it's going to be a moment where a few guys, early adopters, will start embracing that. These are usually the guys that take the marketing advantage of it because they become authorities on that, first mover advantage. And probably after you guys launch this in 5 years, it's not going to be nothing new anymore, and it's going to be an obligation. So related to any new idea, there's always the sweet spot to not jump in too early where you waste time and money, but jump in before majority jumps in, so you take the advantage of becoming an authority about that technology. The final consumer will see you as an early adopter, and that is great. I know millennials, new consumers, they like to be with people that have vision, that are really trying to move forward also with technology.
Yeah, and it's something that you've said before to me a million times, and I've seen you speak on it a bunch, is that the business people get it and the dentists don't. The dentists are like, I don't really know. And the business people are like, wait a minute, I can monitor 1,000 of my dentists and realize how many people are getting good treatment plans or this, and I can do that in seconds.
I've been through a process, very interesting process, my whole career, teaching the DSD concept. I was teaching dentists for many years, right? Then I moved into teaching business people. And as I said, it was amazing for me to see how fast they could get what works, what doesn't work, what we should invest on, what we don't want to waste time with. They're really, really, the way they see dentistry is amazing. And I learned a lot from them. But recently, I had another great breakthrough, and was my first time lecturing to the final consumer. And it was an unbelievable experience. And I'm sure you should look into that. You should start. We're going to talk more about that when we meet, because that is an amazing experience to share all the ideas that you've been trying to teach your colleagues, if you're right or you're wrong, or what works, what doesn't. When you, of course, adapt your language to the layperson, to the final consumer, and you go, and I was in front of 800 non-dentist people, giving a lecture of 1 hour and a half. First question is like, people will sleep, people will leave, How can I make people really understand? And the beauty was to see how attracted they were about the topics related to oral facial health, oral facial care, smile. Very nice. And how they got each one of the messages faster than anybody else. For them, I could see in their faces, makes sense. Yep. I want this. I will look for a provider that gives me this. Next story.
I get this all the time because with my implants, I do everything with guided surgery, fully guided, facially guided. And so when I show the patients that, because I like to show them why I'm different, a lot of times they say, wait, how did the other people do it then?
Exactly.
And I'm like, I know, right? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But when you show it to dentists, they're like, I've been placing implants for 10 years. I don't need to do this.
That's a perfect story. Yeah. And it's not the quality of the implant at the end. It's the process. It's feeling confident. It's feeling safe. It's actually what you said. Predictability. I always say I believe that one of the reasons why people don't like to go to dentists, actually people hate going to dentists, of course, because they relate to pain, they relate to expensive, they relate to waste of time. But I always add another factor. Somehow, consciously or unconsciously, people understand how unpredictable dentistry is. They have the feeling inside, I'm here with the best doctor in the world, but somehow I have a feeling that if he's not on a good day, if he's not inspired,
something can go wrong.
Artistic moment, if it's not a good mood, I'm in his hands. And then if you add to that the fact that many procedures we do in people's mouth are irreversible, and we mutilate people. We cut pieces of their body that don't grow back.
Yeah.
teeth, bone, tissue. We cut those pieces and they're gone. And patients, they feel it. So every time you bring a technology that generates predictability processes that are not directly related to your mood or your hand skills, you see in their expressions mentally, psychologically, you see them getting more confident, you know? So the story you mentioned is perfect. The technology you guys are working, it's a perfect fit to this. You show them, this is how you analyze x-rays until yesterday. This is how we analyze x-rays. Do
Right.
you see the value? Do you
Yeah.
want to use a doctor that uses this technology? I can guarantee to you 110% of every patient will say definitely yes.
Yeah.
Even if I need to pay 10% more, even if I need to pay for an x-ray analysis, I want you to use this technology.
Yeah.
So keep moving on that direction. I want to learn
Thank
more
you.
as you guys evolve on that, you know?
I'll keep you posted.